Walk into a grand European museum and you can visit ancient Egypt without ever feeling the desert heat. Gold gleams under soft lights, sarcophagi stare through glass, and carved gods float against white walls like timeless works of art. What you don't see, standing on that polished floor, is the story of how most of these objects got there. You're looking at the trophies of a 2-century-long competition, where European empires treated ancient Egypt not as a heritage to be respected, but as a treasure chest to be emptied. The scramble began with Napoleon's invasion of Egypt in 1798. His military campaign failed, but his scholars mapped ruins, sketched temples, and packed crates with artifacts. Among the prizes seized by the French, and then captured by the British, was a dark slab of granodiorite found near the town of Rashid or Rosetta. That stone, with the same text in 3 scripts, became the key to decoding hieroglyphs. It also became the symbol of a larger truth. If you controlled the objects, you controlled the story. The Rosetta Stone still sits in London today, its ownership disputed, its journey a neat summary of conquest dressed up as scholarship. In the early 19th century, Egypt was officially part of the Ottoman Empire, but was effectively ruled by ambitious strongmen eager to curry favor with Europe. European diplomats, adventurers, and self-appointed archaeologists realized this political twilight zone made Egypt uniquely vulnerable. They lobbied local rulers for gifts, bribed officials for access, and hired local laborers to hack statues from walls and haul obelisks to the Nile. Behind them, museums in Paris, London, Turin, and Berlin competed to build the most impressive Egyptian collections, treating each new shipment like a colonial victory. This wasn't modern archaeology. It was a blend of treasure hunting, show business, and soft power. A former circus strongman named Giovanni Battista Bolzoni blasted and dragged colossal statues out of temples, leaving shattered walls and damaged paintings behind. Diplomats like Bernardino Drovetti used their positions to amass huge private collections that were later sold to European museums. All the while, local Egyptians had little say over what disappeared from their soil. When fragile mummies were unwrapped in European salons for curious audiences, bits of bandage and bone were treated like party favors, not human remains ripped from their graves. Defenders of these removals often point to legal documents, decrees granting permission to export antiquities. On paper, many objects were gifts or official transfers. But in reality, those signatures were obtained in a world where European powers wielded gunboats, loans, and diplomatic pressure. Calling that an equal negotiation is like calling a mugging a fair exchange because the victim technically agreed to hand over their wallet. By the late 19th century, archaeology in Egypt did become more professional, but the imbalance of power remained. Western-led missions, funded by European museums, received official concessions to dig. A system called partage supposedly governed the division of finds. Egypt kept the most important artifacts, while foreign teams took a share. In practice, those foreign experts usually decided what was most important, under enormous pressure to deliver spectacular pieces to their sponsors back home. Every new statue in the British Museum or the Louvre was presented as proof that their empire, not Egypt itself, was the proper guardian of the ancient Nile. The discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb in 1922 brought these tensions to a head. The British archaeologist Howard Carter, funded by Lord Carnarvon, uncovered a virtually intact royal burial packed with gold. Under the old rules, they expected a large portion of that treasure to go to Europe. But by then, a more assertive Egyptian antiquities service insisted that Tutankhamun's legacy stay in Egypt. The resulting battles in court and in the media revealed how thoroughly Europeans had come to see Egyptian heritage as something they were entitled to own. Even city skylines tell this story. Paris boasts the Luxor obelisk, a granite needle taken from a temple in the 1830s. London and New York each display so-called Cleopatra's needles. In every case, the logic was the same. What was truly valuable in Egypt should be seen, admired, and ultimately possessed in Europe. The defense for this was a comforting narrative. Without them, these treasures would be lost to looters or neglect. There was a grain of truth, but it was wrapped in a thick shell of racism. Egyptians were cast as unfit custodians of their own past, even as they protested and tried to build their own museums. The fact that so much of that past now sat behind foreign glass was presented not as theft, but as a benevolent rescue mission. Today, the debate over repatriation has dragged those old justifications back into the light. Egyptian officials have formally requested the return of iconic pieces like the bust of Nefertiti in Berlin and the Rosetta Stone in London. Museum leaders reply with familiar arguments about legal acquisitions and the dangers of setting precedents. But behind the legal language lies a simpler reality. For 2 centuries, European powers used their muscle to empty Egyptian tombs. And the question now is whether keeping that plunder is still defensible. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching.